Welcome to The Stacks, a podcast about books and the people who read them. I'm your host, Tracy Thomas. Today, we welcome Rachel Lindsay, the first Black Bachelorette, to the podcast to discuss her debut book, Miss Me With That, hot takes, helpful tidbits, and a few hard truths. Rachel is also the co-host of the Higher Learning podcast and a correspondent on Extra. We talked today about her experiences on the Bachelor franchise, opening herself up to social media harassment, and working with a ghostwriter. The Stacks book club pick for February is I Live a Life Like Yours by Jan Grew, and we will be discussing the book on Wednesday, February 23rd with Tessa Miller. If you like The Stacks and want more of it, please head to patreon.com/thestacks to join the Stacks Pack. You'll get perks like bonus episodes, the virtual book club, discounts on merch, and shout outs on the show, which, of course, speaking of, let me shout out some of our newest members. Vivek Kembayan, Cassie Scheidegger, Jessica B., Emily Allen, CP Solvers, Emily Williams, Anna, Chelsea Robinette, Corinne Acosta, and Angie Shelton. Thank you all so much for joining the Stacks and putting your money behind the work of this show. There would be no podcast without the Stacks Pack. So please head to patreon.com/thestacks to join. Okay, now we talk with Rachel Lindsay. All right, everybody. I say this every week, but for those of you who know me, you know I am so excited. As a fan of The Bachelor, as a fan of Higher Learning, today's episode is what we call a dream guest. It is the one and only Rachel Lindsay. Rachel, welcome to The Stacks.
Thank you so much, Tracy, for having me. And what an introduction. It is my honor and pleasure to be here on your podcast. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited. We're going to talk about your book, Miss Me With That, hot takes, helpful tidbits, and a few hard truths. It's your memoir. I loved this book. I went in very skeptical because, you know,
Good.
I feel like the bar is a little low with Bachelor franchise writing.
Not lying.
And I was like, you know what? It'll be cute. I was moved by you. I was like, oh, I'm learning things. But just for people who aren't up on the book yet, will you, in like 30 seconds or so, tell us about the book?
Yes. Thank you for saying that. This is a book about me. It's a book of essays. And I wanted to write essays because I didn't want this to be at 5, I did this, at 10, I did this. I wanted each essay to stand alone. You can pick it up, go back to it, skip ahead if you want to. It's designed to be that way. But what this really is an in-depth look into me. My story has been told for me. I have been misunderstood. There are so many preconceived notions about me, but this book is me. These are my words. These are my feelings. These are my sensitivities, my vulnerabilities, my goofy side, my sassy side. And of course, the hot takes, like me being completely honest about certain situations. I feel like I address everything. You might not get the answer you want, but it will be addressed.
Yes.
But this is really something that almost like a love letter to myself for my teens and 20s, that maybe this is something that you're in this place right now. You can pass it on to a friend, a relative, whatever it may be. But every essay, I learned something. Some lessons I learned before, some lessons I learned when I was writing it.
Got it. I love that. I'm curious when you decided you were ready to write the book, because I know for a lot of people, when you write a memoir, especially folks who are in the public eye, you have to come to terms with sharing information. So when did you get the idea for it? And then when did you decide you were actually ready to write it?
I was approached to write a book right after the show.
Okay.
And to be honest, I didn't feel like I had enough to say.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think that I was interesting enough. I didn't want the book to be all about my time on the show, and I didn't want a tell-all. I'm more than just The Bachelorette, so I wanted to write a book more than that. So it just wasn't the time for it. 2020, I had a lot to say. And because it became more of realizing who I am in this current world, but things that have happened to me prior to this that have made me who I am. And that's the book that I wanted to write. So being in a place where I could barely take 3 steps without breaking down emotionally in 2020, watching what was happening in our country, watching people wake up to racism like it wasn't always here, losing friendships, gaining allies, dealing with Bachelor Nation in a totally different way than I had before. It was 2020 where it was like, okay, you know what? I got something to say, because what I started to do was do opinion, like op-eds. I wrote for GMA. I wrote for some other publication as well. And I was like, you know what? now is the time that I feel like I have something to say. I started a blog called Honestly Rach out of quarantine because I needed something to do.
Right, right,
And it was before May 2020 when it was the culmination of learning about Ahmaud Arbery, learning about Breonna Taylor, watching what happened to George Floyd, watching the fallout with Hannah Brown. All that happened in May.
right.
I had started my blog before. So then my blog became a response to what was happening in society. Higher learning started in May. That was originally was supposed to be a lot lighter
Mhm.
than it started off. That was a response to what was happening in the Black community and in this country. And so then I was just like, you know what? It's time to write a book. Now, who would have known that then what would all happen
Yes.
in 2021
I
did as well? So it was gotta
You're
add
like, "Edit,
essay.
edit, edit, edit." Oh my gosh. I know you've had, like, a whirlwind last few years, which is sort of funny because you would think that, like, doing The Bachelorette would be, like, that's all the craziness, and it's, like, 5 years later, all of a sudden, I feel like you've had a Rachel renaissance in the public eye in a way that,
Ooh,
like,
yes, I like
Rachel
that.
alliteration. Take it with you. Take it to your next interview. One of the things you talk about in your book from your upbringing, you talk about having been one of the few Black kids going to like an all white school and being in a Black community and not feeling Black enough. And that's something
Mhm.
I also went to a predominantly white schools. And that's something that I've definitely struggled with as well. And I'm wondering if it's something that is it something that you're still struggling with now as you're on higher learning and people are turning to you as like this voice and feeling a responsibility to not obviously speak for all Black people, but also to represent us well and also, the criticism that you get? Like, do you still struggle with that?
Very interesting question. So, on higher learning, we had a family meeting
Yes.
one time,
I remember this.
and it triggered issues that I talk about in my book, and Van always jokes with me, and it was something where I hadn't fully explained to him what I've been through, but it triggered in me what I went through in my childhood into my early adult years.
Sure.
And so I don't struggle with it, not nearly as much as I used to, but certain things, right? Like marrying a man who's not Black. Well,
Right.
then all those things come back again where people are accusing me of being something that I'm not,
Mm,
or diminishing my Blackness, oh, my Blackness is watered down. I'm not as Black as you, or your Black is better than mine. Those are issues from my childhood that I dealt with all over again in doing The Bachelor.
mm,
So I don't feel the pressure or feel a certain way to speak out because that's just me. And I think you also get that in the book of why I'm so vocal. I can't help myself, what
mhm.
I went through, what my parents taught me, what I learned, what I saw with my sister going to an HBCU. So, no, I don't feel it in that sense. I just more sometimes I feel defensive
Sure.
because of how people first met me. They met
Sure.
me dating a white man.
Right.
And then on my show, I picked someone who wasn't Black.
Right. Right.
So,
Which has become like such a talking point on the show of like picking someone who's not Black. It's like, okay, well, the dating pool also, it's not like, which you talk about in the book. Not
yeah.
to diminish Brian in any way. My husband is
Sure,
also
sure, he
not
gets
Black.
it.
Yeah, he knows. He was married to you. Like, that's the thing I always think. I'm like, of course Brian gets it all. He's married to Rachel. Okay, you dive deep into some personal family type things. How much of the book did you show to your family before you sent the final? Did you show any? What did the judge say? I'm curious.
So, my family has not read the book,
Still
not my
no.
sisters, not my parents. I contemplated, should I give them the book before? And then I decided not to. But what I did do, we had a very interesting Christmas holiday.
Okay.
Because what I did do is decide to talk to them about the chapter that was the hardest one for me to write, and that's the mis-sex education of Rachel
Mm,
Lindsay, because we don't talk about sex in my family. We
sure.
never did, we still don't. I'm 36 and I'm married, and I still get nervous to talk about things.
Right.
There's a lot of sex in this book,
Yeah.
and I'm very open about who I was having sex with and losing my virginity. And even being married and at the age I am, I was like, "Oh my gosh, my parents, I'm so nervous. Are they gonna disown me after reading it?" But it's reality.
Right.
And I think a lot of people can relate to growing up the way I did in a certain household where there was one message taught at school, at church, at home, even in your friend groups, most of my friend circles. So I felt it was important because I know I'm not alone in this and I shouldn't be afraid to talk about it. And so I like that I challenge, not lose religion, but challenge my religion and the messages that are taught. And you see me work through that difficulty and that guilt and shame of not doing what I was supposed to do, and then losing myself in the process and trying to find that self worth in other ways. So
Right.
I told my parents, I said, you didn't talk to me about sex. Oh my gosh, to this day, the judge is like, yes, we did. You learned at school. I said, no. I learned about reproduction. That is
Sure.
totally different
Yep.
than learning about sex and the feelings that you have and these emotions. And when you meet a guy, of course, my parents taught me to respect my body. And that's what my dad said. We taught you to respect yourself and value yourself. You did. But what happens if I'm not perfect in that sense?
Right.
There was never a conversation about that. There was never a conversations about the emotional side. And my dad had to concede and he was like, "You're right. We never talked to you about that."
Right.
So they were accepting of what I had to say, but I do think it's going to be very difficult for them to read because at the end of the day, my parents still care about what a lot of people think, and
Sure.
they're going to feel a certain way that other people are going to be reading about my business. I come
So
from a family where we don't talk about your business.
right, right. So will there be another family meeting after they read the book? Like, will there be a book report where they have to
I mean,
give
here's what I told them. I said, there was a lot more I could have said.
Mm,
So what I kept reiterating to them is, I'm telling my business, telling your story or something that happened or things I learned about my family that I felt like could have been very beneficial for me to know when I
mhm,
was struggling with
mhm.
this that I didn't find out till I was in my 30s
Right,
because they didn't tell each other's business. So it was important for me to not tell their business but mine.
right.
So I was like, I hope that you guys at least find peace with that. There was a lot I could have said
Yeah.
that I didn't. I just told mine. And there's intention, there's a purpose behind it. I'm
Right,
not telling it just to sell books. I'm telling it because it was therapeutic for me, and I feel like there are lessons that I learned that maybe somebody else can learn as well.
right. And what about a lot of the stuff you talked about? Like, you have a boyfriend that you talked about cheating on. You have the story about taking, a big test where you did something that you weren't super excited about. No spoilers here, folks. You'll have to get the book. Um How did you come to terms with sharing so much of yourself and in writing this book? Like, how did you get okay with being like, people are going to find out about this thing that I'm not super proud of or that I'm still a little embarrassed about?
So, what's funny is I've never publicly said, and he does not know, at least that I know of, that I cheated on him in that relationship. I know what he did to me because, I talk about it,
Right.
but I've always been ashamed to say that I actually cheated in that relationship. And that's what I mean about we were both so wrong
Hmm.
and it was not right for either one of us. But the reason I wanted to be open about my mistakes is because the purpose of the book is for people to get to know me,
Right.
not the persona that has been out there, which is that, oh, Rachel has it together. She went to, college, law school, daughter of a federal judge, works as an attorney. She is perfect on paper. No, I'm self aware. And the reason I'm self aware is because of the hot mess of my 20s. And I don't think that it's my on brand for me to pretend to be something that I'm not.
Mm.
And also, what a boring book
Yeah.
that would have been
A thousand
if
percent.
I didn't tell I would have to leave out truly a decade of my life.
Hmm.
And I just thought it was so important to sit like, if you wanna understand how I am Rachel today, you have to understand the uphill battle that I had, the inner struggles that I had, the mistakes that I made in relationships, the
Right.
way I was looking to be valued from certain men, the way I treated, even being taught a message of valuing my body, the way I wasn't valuing it. And I thought I was so strong because I was doing everything I was supposed to do on the
Right.
outside. But on the inside, I was a mess, which is why one of my other favorite chapters, Into Sanity, you see that I didn't think I needed therapy. And I'm a firm believer that the people who truly don't think they need therapy are the ones that need it the
Yeah.
most.
Yeah.
And I went to therapy for the wildest reason, and it changed the entire trajectory of my life. And I would not be where I am today without therapy, both therapy that I had before the show, therapy that I had during the show, and therapy after.
I love the part where you mentioned how you demanded therapy
Oh,
on
yeah.
at the show. They were like, "We have therapists for people who need it." You're like, "No, no, I'll be doing this, thank you." I thought that was just, like,
Yeah.
such a boss moment. I was like, "I love this."
It
It's
saved me. I was like, "Where are these people disappearing to?" They're like, "Oh, they're going to see the psychiatrist." "What?" I was like,
Sign
"Me,
me up
now, her."
immediately. Do it, do it. You mentioned 2020, and I'm just so one of the things I've always been really fascinated about with your story as someone who, before reading the book, knowing that you're the first Black bachelorette, you sort of parlayed that success into this, you left being a lawyer and you started to do ESPN stuff. You have this podcast, like you're a host, you do all these things. I'm wondering at what point, and if 2020 maybe was part of it, where you reflected back on your time at The Bachelor, did you ever like get angry or like did you ever feel embarrassed or upset about what you experienced and how you were told that you experienced it? Like there seemed to be a disconnect from the outside eye of who you were and who you are from what I know and then what I remember of you on that show and how you were portrayed. So I'm wondering if like it all clicked for you at any point and what that was like.
Yeah, I mean, there I can point to the exact moment where I started to turn and people were like, "Wait a minute." And I guess, this is such a great question because when I looked, I thought and I was being very much myself,
Right,
but on the show, but I knew that I was doing a TV show, so there was a lot of things that I compromised with.
right,
Some it was
right.
just wasn't worth fighting for. At the end of the day, I wanted to represent myself, of course, as a Black woman, but then possibly find love if that option was there. But the more I stepped away from it, or I would talk to people who knew me before, it was kind of like it seems like a watered down version of Rachel. And I think
Mm.
that that's also evident when people say, "Oh, I loved you so much more when you were on the show than I
Oh
do
my
now."
gosh, that's so funny because 'cause I'm so the opposite. I loved you as the Bachelorette, but, now I'm like, "Oh, I fuck with Rachel." Like, I don't like, I liked you as a Bachelorette because 'cause I'm Black and I'm like, "She's there and she's beautiful, she's handling with so much grace, and, like, she seems like a lovely person." But now I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I'm team Big Rach big time." Like,
Well, thank
the
you.
opposite, total opposite.
As my sorority sister says, she's like, "You played the part, under contract, you played the part, but then you turned around and called the franchise racist with your whole chest
Yes.
afterwards." And for me, I guess you had to understand why I said yes to Bachelorette. It wasn't because I thought I was gonna find a husband. That was, like, the
Right,
the surprise in it all. It was because I wanted to represent myself
right.
as a Black woman and stand in this space as a lead when people hadn't seen someone who looked like me in this position, and I never wanted to forget that. And
Mm.
so I was always going to come back and fight for more inclusivity because that shouldn't end with me.
Right.
So contractually, I couldn't necessarily do that, but when I turned was a year to the date of my finale when I sat there and I was blogging for Us Weekly, and I watched Becca Kufrin's finale, and I
Mm.
could not believe the stark contrast in what she experienced and what I experienced. And I remember I was in my hotel room in New York and I was seething. I
Mm.
can't even remember why I was in New York. I was seething. I called Brian. I was going to write a totally different article. I called Brian and I read to him what I ended up writing out of pure emotion. I was livid. And he was like, send it. And it got picked up everywhere because I watched her get her fairy tale.
Mhm.
And it took me back to, they stripped that away from me. They
Right,
put me on display for 3 hours and labeled me angry, Black, female.
right,
And for Becca, who literally was sitting next to a homophobic, racist, transphobic, xenophobic man,
right.
they covered it up and wished him, kind of like, "Oh, thank you so much for sharing that," when he gave us absolutely nothing. And I
Nothing.
was just watching how they protected her, but they didn't do that for me at all.
Right.
I turned to Peter and said, "I'm living my best life." And I remember they cut to commercial, and I remember Chris telling me, like, "You need to calm down." I remember
Mm.
producers telling me, like, "People are gonna be upset." And I was like, "'Cause I told the man he's living their best his
Right,
that I'm living my best life."
right.
So that moment, I wrote like a scathing article calling them out for who they are and what they've done, and it was like people turned on me ever since. And for
Wow.
me, it was like, I'm out of contract, there's no looking back at this point. this is how it is. I'm going to say exactly what I want to and how I feel,
Right.
and
That was it.
that just set me on the path.
That just sent you on your journey. For people who aren't like huge fans and don't know every single moment of the show like I do,
Sure.
what happened in your finale is that you had a live finale. And so you had
Yes.
to watch everything in front of a live studio audience. And you had a pre breakup prior to picking Brian, who is now your husband of 2 years?
Yes.
2 years. And they sort of made the guy that you didn't pick, Peter. It was a very emotional, you guys were crying, you had eyelashes on the floor. My God, I'll never forget the shot of the
Mhm.
eyelashes. And it made it like that Peter was the one that you really wanted, not Brian, which is not the case, but
Yeah.
that's how it was edited. And then in comparison to what happened with Becca, she picked this horrible guy who had these horrible tweets and liked like a woman's place in the kitchen or something terrible. I don't know.
Mhm.
I can't exactly
Mhm.
remember. But they let him talk and he was like, I just liked it. I didn't know what I was liking. Like, I'm lovely, whatever. Turns out
Right.
he was a full thin blue line kind of guy. 2020 really just he was fully MAGA. He jumped the shark. But I mean, that's their audience. So that's what you're talking about, is that they gave him this lovely moment and
Yes.
instead they kind of put you on display and made you look like you were emotional and you were faking it and all of this stuff. When flash forward 5 years, you're still married to Brian and Becca and Garrett are no longer. And now
Correct.
Becca has a snack with Thomas.
And so I'm so happy for her, and it's so funny because she was like, "I didn't tell you I was going to the summer show Bachelor in Paradise because a lead has never gone before."
Right, right.
And she's like, "I didn't tell you, Rachel, because I didn't you would try to convince me not to." And she's right. I would be like,
Yes.
"Girl, what are you doing?" I'm so glad to be wrong because she and Thomas are the absolute real deal. Brian and I have hung out with them a couple of times, and they're
Oh.
fantastic.
That's so nice. I have to credit a mutual friend of ours for all of my Bachelor knowledge because I'm a huge fan of Juliette Littman, who's actually been on
Oh,
this show. Yes, and I know Juliette loves you. We went out to dinner when I was in New York, and she was like, "Oh my God, Rachel's the best." And I was like, "I'm gonna try to get Rachel on the podcast."
I
But
love Juliet. And then also for your readers who aren't familiar with the show, in the finale, what was also so jarring and I wrote about is that, you understood why Becca picked her guy.
yes,
You couldn't understand why I picked
right,
Brian.
right,
And then when Peter did tell me, "Well, if you're not gonna be with me, you're gonna live a mediocre life."
that's
And then
right.
my response was, "Actually, I'm living my best life." He comes back from commercial and Chris Harrison says, "Rachel, you seem angry. I have yet to yell, raise my voice, curse, roll my eyes, nothing. I'm talking in a purposefully, I might say, in a complete monotone voice." Then Peter turns to me and says, "You attacked me." And I say, "How did I attack you?" And I know for a fact a producer fed him that during the commercial break. And he said, "You attacked me." And I said, "How did I attack you?" And he pauses a long pause and he goes, I don't know, because I didn't.
Right,
And those are the same words that
right,
Bachelor Nation used for me to this day. I'm bitter, I'm angry, I attack because of what Chris said and what Peter said. And it
right,
was something that I carried with me to this day. To this day, people constantly go back to she's angry, she's bitter. And they
right.
turned on me after that moment.
I mean, it's just so crazy because you were the first Black lead, but there have been so many, and I don't feel that they've ever done right by them. I think they tried to give Michelle money as reparations or whatever.
Reparations,
Yeah, 1,000%,
100%.
1,000%. But, like, I mean, Matt James, they did him pretty dirty. Tayshia got a half season. I think, like, I gotta be honest, as a fan of the show, I don't go to the show to watch about race. I really don't. Like, I was happy that you got the opportunity, and I was literally like, "Okay,
Mhm.
just go back to the white nonsense." Like, that's what I'm here for, you know? And, like, I don't know if you're watching this season, but I'm like, "This is
No.
lovely," because it's just, like, white chaos. It's like 3 blonde women hating each other, and I'm like, "This is beautiful television." Like, I don't want to see Matt James interview his dad about prison.
No,
I'm
never.
not here for that. Exactly. Okay, I wanna kind of move off Bachelor because there's so much other, like, juicy stuff and interesting stuff about your life. However, I do wanna ask you one more Bachelor question, which is, are you just fucking tired of talking about Peter? Because I feel like you are the only lead who I've ever seen who still has to talk about the runner up. and you're one of the few people who's married. Like, it's, like, so crazy to me. Besides maybe, like, Ari, even though he never has to talk about Becca, and she won, and then he dumped her on TV. So I'm just like, does it
Yeah.
piss you off, or does it, like, irritate you at all?
I knew people were going to be obsessed with Peter, and
Yeah.
I didn't watch the shows before, but it is my understanding that before there was a Tyler Cameron, there was a
Ugh,
Peter Krause.
yeah.
And people were obsessed with Peter in a way that they never have been before.
Yeah.
So it doesn't shock me that people still ask me questions about him because they couldn't understand because of their obsession, they
Mhm.
couldn't understand that I would say no and I could possibly be happy with somebody else. It didn't hit them. And plus, because our breakup was so emotional,
Right.
it's just something that people to this day still can't let go of. There's certain people who can't move on. So it doesn't bother me. It happened. It's a part of my story. So I don't
Mhm.
mind talking about it because it also gives me the opportunity to tell the true story
Right.
with it all, you know, and
Right.
and explain it. At this point, I just find it funny for the people who still are like, oh my gosh, she really wanted Peter. And I'm like, really, guys? It's almost been 5 years.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
moved on. My wish is for you too as well.
Yes, I hope that you can find someone that loves you as much as you seem to love Peter. You had a piece that came out today in People about some of the harassment that you've experienced, which was pretty brutal and disgusting. Do you ever think like, you know what? I just want to leave the public eye and be harassment free and like chill out in my home with my husband and my dog and just like vibe? Or are you okay with being, I mean, not okay, not like you're inviting it, but like, do you have some sort of peace with it?
I definitely have peace with it. What happened after the fallout from Chris's interview was more I've never like, that's the first time I couldn't handle it.
Okay.
I've always been able to handle it. I can take things in stride. I can like, I talk about this in the book. It's like, you're a Lindsay, this is what you're supposed to do. You put on your big girl pants and you keep it moving. I can pretend and fake it and ignore my emotions, even though therapy has taught me to stop doing that. With Chris, it was so unexpected and it
Mhm.
just kept coming. And every week was like a new piece, and people would get
Right.
mad all over
All
again
over
who didn't
again.
even watch the show. And
Right.
that's what was so difficult about it. So it was the first time that I got off social media. It was too much for me. I remember lying in my bed, getting on Instagram, seeing the negativity, and I was like, "You know what? I'm just gonna deactivate it." And I remember I called Brian and I was like, "Hey, I deactivated my social. I'm good, just letting you know." Not even thinking that was gonna be a news story. I did it for peace of mind. My phone blew up. "Are you okay? What happened to
Right.
you?" And
Ugh.
then, of course, Van's response is like, "Leave her alone." And then that just gets me the
Right.
attention. I love that he had my back though. So yeah, I'm at peace now because I've moved past it. Of course, I'm talking about it on this book tour, and of
Right.
course, people are getting angry, like, "I can't believe she's talking about it again," but guess what? This is a part of my story. This
Right.
happened to me, and when it happened, I said how I felt initially, but then I stopped talking about it. I went on my podcast, I did a couple of interviews, and that was it.
Right.
Even when Chris got fired, I didn't do interviews about it. So now I'm talking about it in depth because this is a part of my story, and I'm not going to allow people to take it away from me. And partly, I'm at peace as well because I was able to write about it and
Mm.
I was able to process it and I was able to successfully move on from it. And I
Right.
did get a lot of support at the same time. So that is the kind of attention I don't like,
Right.
but I don't mind getting attention for speaking out on things that I believe in or I'm passionate about at all.
Right. And like one of the things I think is so interesting about people like not wanting you to talk about it on your book tour or just in general is that's like so typical racism in America, right? It's like this
Mhm.
thing happens, you're at your job, you're doing your job, you're asking like very benign
Yeah,
questions. This white person has a meltdown of sorts, a verbal meltdown. I mean, he's not crying or anything, but like
yeah,
he's spiraling. He spiraled himself
yeah,
out and then you become the villain and then you become a piece in his story as opposed to him showing up at your work and
right.
treating you poor. Like it's just such an obvious example of how these things happen and it's so frustrating and infuriating to watch and like I know there's so many people who hate you because of it. But I also feel like on
Mhm.
the flip, there's so many people like me who are like, she handled that so beautifully. And like, I'm so glad that someone else has experienced this horrible thing that I think that is just a thing that happens to me. Not that I wish any of this on you, but you know what I'm saying? It's like to
Yeah.
see it and to be able to recognize it.
And it's so true, and that's a part of the book too, is I want people to understand, when I go through this essay of a nation of double standards, for some reason, you wanna scream to the rooftops about, "Rachel, how could you? Give her grace, give her compassion, where's your understanding?" Well, why is it that you can never apply that to
Right.
me? Why
Right.
can you never give me grace and understanding or understand where I'm coming from? I have
Right.
to be doing something bad. Rachel had this master plan to trick this 50-year-old man who's been
Right.
hosting a show for 19 years into saying the wrong thing.
Right.
I must have done something,
Right.
you know? So it's just incredible to me. Like I swear, if I was in the state of Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis would be proposing a bill to shut me up because I'm making white people feel uncomfortable, you know?
Right.
Like that's
Right.
it's just wild.
It's crazy. And like Chris Harrison is one of the most media trained humans on the face of the
Exactly.
earth. It's not like he's a contestant. I think maybe if it was like some contestant and like you had them on and you like did a gotcha question, but it's like this
Right.
man is comfortable with a microphone. Like he knows how to spin. He's been around the
He does it
block.
all the time. He does it
Of
all he
course,
wanted to
constantly.
say that. He
Yeah,
wanted to say that, and, like, when people ask me, "Why did you ask that question?" It's like, it was the most relevant question at
right.
the time, and I've said this I think I said this once before, we were supposed to have Tyler Cameron on the show. Tyler Cameron bailed out, so thank you, Tyler, and just didn't show up to do the interview, and Chris stepped in to do the
Wow.
interview instead. I would have asked Tyler the exact same question.
Right. I mean, it was the only question. That was all we were talking about. What like that's the thing. It's like it was the most basic shit. It wasn't like you were like, "Hey, Chris, are you a racist? Like, why are you so racist, Chris? Do you like the Ku Klux Klan, Chris?" Like it was like,
Right.
"Hey, Chris, can you talk about this thing that everyone's talking about?"
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna take a quick break and then we're gonna come back and talk about your process. Valentine's Day is upon us, and I've got love on the brain. Love for books. Duh, of course. Hello. Did you forget what podcast you're listening to? I love bringing you all great reads, exclusive author interviews, and behind the scenes book gossip. But I can only do that with your support over on Patreon and Substack. Our Stacks Patreon community, also known as the Stacks Pack, is where you can go for book club meetups, a private, very active Discord, and a year-long mega reading challenge to help you achieve all your reading goals. Plus, you also get that monthly bonus episode. Now, over on the Substack, you can subscribe to my newsletter, Unstacked, where I keep the book conversations going. I also give you a healthy dose of sports and pop culture, definitely some hot takes happening over there. And again, that bonus episode. If you don't have a few dollars to spare, don't worry. There are free options on the Substack and the Patreon to get you a little extra Stacks magic. Making this podcast is a total team effort, and by supporting my Patreon and my Substack, you allow me to support my amazing team that makes the show possible every single week. So if you or your friends are looking to meet other book lovers and support this indie podcast, come hang out with me on Patreon, Substack, or both. I would love to have you. And since we're talking about love, you can gift subscriptions to the Patreon and the Substack for that special reader in your life. For the Stacks Pack, head to patreon.com/thestacks. And for the newsletter, head to tracythomas.substack.com. And also, there are links to both in the show notes. Okay, see you in the stacks. Okay, we are back. My first question for you about sort of your writing process is, in the book, you have this list from when you're a teenager about your dream man, your partner. Then you have this list reappear in your 30s, and then you kind of deal with it at the end of the book. Was there really a list, and was this actually what was on it? Or is this like a list like you pulled from your journal, or is this a list that you sort of like compiled from your memories?
This is actually a mental list that I had. I
Okay.
didn't actually write it down and
Okay.
we put it in. The only thing that's actually written that it's put in that was written prior were my vows.
Okay.
Like, other than outlining and notes and stuff,
Right,
you know
right,
what I
right, right,
mean?
right.
But I absolutely had a list. And anybody who knows me knows this was it,
Okay.
which it's ridiculous when you read the book. But
Right.
every single one of those things was on it. It was a mental list. And I would talk about it. I'm like, he doesn't fit what's on my mental list. Like, I just pass him by.
Right, 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 right. And are you a journaler? Because it seemed like there was a lot of things that seemed like really specific, and I wasn't sure how you pulled out those memories if not.
Sometimes. Like, I
Okay.
wish I was Matthew McConaughey and, for his book Green Lights and just really just pulled out all these journals to write the book. Gosh, I wish I would have done
Yeah,
that.
add the
I
notes.
journal here and there, and I
Okay,
still have some of them, from high school, but nothing to where, it's, like, that comprehensive by
okay,
any means.
okay.
But
Yeah, I'm always
when I
curious.
finished the show, I started to write down things because I didn't wanna
Mm.
forget. I wish I would have done it while I was on the show.
Oh, interesting, yeah. How did you I mean, you're one of the most busy people. How did you make time to make this happen? This book?
I love this question because again, I'm very honest about all things. There is absolutely no way I could have done this book if I did not have a ghostwriter. If I did not have help. Shout out to Sophia Quintero. We have been working on this for over a year. Like even in my busy schedule because I'm so type A, we talk. I'd write, I'd send notes because I had an extensive outline already, like of what I wanted. I knew I wanted essays. I knew I didn't want chapters. I wrote down different subjects. I had even written like the foreword already. Like I had already started the writing process, but I just couldn't get there. And I also need
Mm,
discipline. I'm a person who needs to be held
okay.
accountable, believe it or not. I'm type A, but it's like organized chaos. So I need someone who's like, Friday, you need to have this to me by. So the process was long of us just talking, first just getting to know each other. And that's how I knew
Mm,
she would be amazing in helping me. I wanted a woman of color because I wanted a woman who understood
right.
certain things that I was going through at the time, who's been maybe had a similar experience or has been impacted by 2020 in the ways that I have, has dealt with things in the professional world. And Sophia and I could talk for hours and hours.
Mm,
And she's an accomplished writer in her own right. And she does so much in the community as well. So, and she's Afro Latina. So
okay.
that she brings in the perspective as well of me marrying a Latino man. So I just loved it. So she and I would talk. I would write, I would send her notes. She would transcribe what we would talk. I'd look at it. I'd form an essay. She would write. And now you're not even asking me all this. So I might be
No,
jumping ahead in my
I
questions.
literally the show, the first half is like about the content and the second half is all about like writing and process. So this is like my dream. So please continue. We're all listening very intensely.
And honestly, it was organized chaos. It was a lot of back and forth of, like she would send me something and I was like, oh my gosh, I said this. I'm like, oh no, we got to take this out. Like, I'm not going to write this or, and then I would just rewrite something completely, or it would trigger another story. I'm like, hey, let's get on the phone. Let's talk. Let's work this out. Let me tell you what I'm thinking. She would give her input on things and she was
Mm,
really good about pushing me to go deeper
mm,
because I would find the Lindsay in me saying like,
sure.
that's a little too much information. That's too much. And she would hit me with the why. Why
Right.
did you do that? Why did you feel that way? And our conversations, honestly, should be a book as well.
Oh, I would
They
love
were
that.
just, and it was just a lot of yes, girl, and encouragement. And there were things that would happen in the world where we would just talk to each other about just venting and being upset about it. And then it would
Mm,
like give us inspiration to write about something else. Like that's how I started writing about how when I start going into detail about Ahmaud Arbery and
mm,
talking about that because of a conversation that she and I were having. And I was like, man, I forgot to tell you about this moment when this happened. And
right.
it became an essay.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was a lot. Note taking, outlining. Like in my notes, I'm a huge phone taker in my notes. I'm a huge voice memo person in my
Okay.
notes. I'm driving, I have an idea. It's a voice memo. I'd shoot it to Sophia. Um, she'd send me articles sometimes about different things. And so it was a great process, a lot of hands-on, a lot of back and forth. And to this day, Sophia and I have never met in person.
Oh, where is she located?
She's New York.
Okay.
But
Gotcha.
every time I try to get to New York, I'm too busy or she's not there, or she
Right.
comes to LA and I'm not here. So yeah, one of
One
these
day.
days
One
we're gonna get
day.
together and we'll probably cry and
Yeah.
hug.
And a
And
hug.
but I am so indebted to her. I am so grateful for her that she was patient with me, kind, understanding, took the time to get to know me
Mm.
and, like, really wanted this book to be as successful as her, and I feel like a lot of her is in this book as well. Like, that's like a sister to me.
Ugh, I love that so much. It's very rare just by the nature of this show that I get to talk to someone who's had a ghostwriter, and so I
Mhm.
never get to talk about ghostwriting, which I'm always really fascinated about because it's so, like, hush hush. A lot of people either don't talk about it for whatever reason, or a lot of people don't know about it at all. So I'm really grateful for
Mhm.
you for sharing a little bit about your experience.
Yeah, I don't like to pretend. I'm not gonna pretend that this is not extensions. I'm not gonna pretend, you know what I mean,
Right,
that I, haven't had, like, Botox once or something before. I'm not gonna pretend that I wrote this book all by myself.
right.
And I just think so highly of Sophia that it would just be doing a disservice to not honor how helpful she was with me in writing this book.
Right, that's so interesting. I'm curious about when you're doing your notes and when you're, like, pulling your ideas together, where are you? How often are you doing it? Do you sit down and sort of sit to write, or is it always, like, note-taking on the go? Are you listening to music? This part's important. Are there snacks and beverages, rituals, candles? Like, set the scene of sort of how you are creating this book.
I am really a person who has to be inspired to write.
Okay.
I am not like, "Okay, this Sunday, I'm gonna block out time to write." It just comes to me after a conversation with a friend, after reading something in a book, after podcasting, after, like, maybe watching a Real Housewives episode, after a conversation with my mom, and then when I get the itch or the whatever you wanna call it, when the
Mhm.
inspiration hits, I can just go. And
Mm.
I am in a zone. But I what was helpful in having a ghostwriter is there was more structure to it.
Mhm.
So I could block out like, okay, this conversation has been transcribed. Let me put this together. Like, man, this needs a lot more. This doesn't really explain. Like I have the outline and the bones, but there's no like no meat to it. This doesn't explain why this happened. This is a little disjointed. It's not connected.
Mm.
Um, I can be a little wordy, which I am in the book, but that's actually real life, and I did want people to feel like they were when they were reading this book, like they were talking to me, because people know me so much from talking. So, yeah, the book is a lot of words. It probably could have been whittled down a bit, but I'm wordy, so it reflects me.
It definitely
Um
does. I feel like you could hear your voice through it, which is really interesting with a ghostwriter too, because it's like, I think that I know that it's you, and then it's like, oh, someone else like helped. But that just goes to show that we all need
That's
help.
how that is shows how involved I was. This
Yeah.
wasn't just like, "Hey, I'm gonna tell you this,
Right, right,
I'll
right.
check you later." She got me, we got each other. It was very much so back and forth. But to answer your question, yes, that is how a lot of my writing is. But when I block off time to write and when I'm my best self writing is late at night
Okay.
when everybody's asleep. Nobody's going to text me. I can't be distracted by social media really. There's nothing on TV. And I like to play old school. Like I have to have noise.
Okay.
Old school 80s, 90s R&B. Something that
Fantastic.
I might be writing, but I'm singing along at the same time.
Okay.
I have a glass of wine and I am in my space, like this is my office, and I'm just going. Brian's asleep, the dogs are at my feet. I just love that it feels like I'm the only person in the world. And that is when I can really, really get going.
You're giving me major like term paper vibes.
And that's how I would do my last
Yeah.
minute tournament. This is exactly how I would do it.
That's exactly what it sounds like. It's like everyone's asleep and like you're vibing out to your music. Like, I gotta get my work done. Let me get in the
Right.
zone.
But don't you feel like you're the only person in the world? And that, for some reason, is just so inspiring to me. I'm vibing
I
in
love
that
that.
moment.
I love that. That's
Yeah,
very
so if
good.
I am gonna pick a moment, that's it for sure.
Do you have any snacks?
I'm not a snacker period in
Oh
life, and
no, Rachel, 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 Rachel. No, no,
this
no.
is the joys, I guess, of being or not really joys, but just the issues with being a picky eater. I'm not a snacker, I don't really nibble. Wine is my snack. I'll
Okay. I'll
bring the
allow it.
bottle in here and the glass and just if anything, it's gonna be peanuts. It's so boring. I'm just not a snacker.
So I am the opposite. I'm a super picky eater, and so I snack a lot in case when it comes to mealtime, there isn't what I like, because I don't
Maybe I
like to
should
be
start
hungry.
that.
Yeah, so I eat snacks too much. But I what kind of picky eater are you? What's on your do not eat list?
Textures. I've learned this in my older age. I can't handle the guacamole, the avocado, the mashed potato, the
Oh,
applesauce, the chili, the oatmeal, like, you see what I mean?
okay.
Like,
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
I will gag on
Okay.
it, and I don't like spreads, so
Okay.
everything has to be oil-based, so I can't have, like,
Oh,
a like, a white wine sauce on
okay.
my like, or cream sauce on my pasta. It's gotta be olive
Wow.
oil.
Got it.
It can't be creamy. I can't handle that kinda
That's
stuff.
so interesting. I'm a flavor picky eater. I also don't like guacamole though. I'm disgusted by
Thank
avocados.
you.
But I
Thank
love a mashed potato. I like a creamy moment. I don't like a lot of, like, vegetables. A lot of vegetables disgust me. Just very
Oh,
turned
really?
off
So
by
I do
that.
vegetables.
I'll do that. As I get older, I get better, but I don't eat eggs. I'm not into eggs. I'm not into avocado. I'm not into like it's just taste for me. Like so there's no texture at all that matters. I mean, maybe there's some textures. Cottage cheese is not a texture.
It has to sound, smell, taste, and look right for me to eat it.
Okay.
So I understand what you mean. If I think about an egg too long, I can't eat it
No.
because there is but I like eggs, but if I think
Yeah.
about it too much, they have to be cooked the perfect way, and if not, I can't eat them. I can't
Yeah.
eat a hamburger because I can't stand ground beef. I look at it,
Oh.
it disgusts me, so this is not even about the look. So
Yeah.
it's a mental thing. It's a
I have a lot
I'm
of
sure
problems
that
with ground meat things. Like meatballs gross me out. Meatloaf is a hard
disgusting.
no. Any mixture of meat, like I have a little bit of what you have, and then I also just have like I don't like it. Like my nephew used to say, that looks like something I don't like.
And that's me, and
That's it.
that's me. I am still a child.
I love this. No, he's 30 now. This is what he used to say when he was a kid. Um, yeah, yeah. How do you preserve or tap into to your creativity?
Ooh, um, you know, life inspires me, so that's why I'm big on so it's not like granted, I do meditate, and there are moments when I'm inspired and I feel creative after a really successful meditation,
Mhm.
but I feel creative when I'm out in nature, so
Mm.
I love to walk my dog and put my AirPods in and listen to absolutely nothing
Oh,
because I'm soaking in all the surroundings around me. I'm thinking about certain things, ideas come to me, and I love it. They also come to me when I take a bath. I
ugh,
love a bath moment.
I
I'm
love
very
a
creative.
bath.
Oh, with the bubble bath, with the candle, I'm in the dark. Maybe I have wine, maybe I have grapes. One of my my
A
favorite snack are
snack.
a cup of grapes. So, and since a child, my dad used to wash them off for me. It's a thing.
Okay,
So there you go.
thank you.
I feel very inspired and creative because I'm completely at peace and relaxed
Mm.
on a road trip, especially when I'm by myself. I am
Oh,
very much so that's when I do a lot of voice memos. I feel very creative, especially out here in California when you're driving past the water. I look up and I see the mountains, and there is something so breathtaking, not
mm,
having not grown up around mountains, to look and see mountains in the distance, especially when they're snow-capped.
mm,
I'm just very inspired by nature, by the water.
yeah.
Yeah, long walks.
I love that. I love that. I like a long walk. I actually went on a walk right before I came back in the house to do this. Okay, this is a very important question. Everyone who comes on the show gets asked this question. What is one word you cannot spell correctly on the first try?
That's a lot. Um, I don't know, but let me just tell you let me say
Okay.
this.
Okay.
Do you ever come across where like, the most simple word, you
Mhm.
for some reason can't spell, and
Yes.
it looks wrong to you every single time you see it on a page?
Yes.
I did that with a word that I can't even believe it was. It was because it's only 2 letters.
Okay. I can't
For the
wait.
life of me, I one time could not figure out how to spell "of." It just don't ask me
I
why.
love this. I love this.
I think it sounds so stupid, but I, for the life of me, was like, OVE? Like, what? I don't know why in my mind I could not process, this sounds so bad.
No,
I
this is
should be
not.
using
This
the
is
word
true.
like capitulate or something like that. Like, I don't
Sure.
know. I could,
No, it's
you know,
it this question
it
is
was
what I
off.
love about this question is that people I've gotten there before, like people forget the difference between the theirs. I've gotten some, Renaissance, I think was whoever was last week or, it ranges. Restaurant is a very popular word that people can't spell. And I am a terrible speller, but that's like the one
Same.
word I can spell. And so every time someone says restaurant, I'm like, what an idiot.
Easy. I can't spell cinnamon. I always
Oh, me
forget
neither.
cinnamon.
Too many consonants.
Like, whenever there's a double and there's not like
Yeah.
broccoli, you're like, is it 2
Yes.
C's or is it 2 L's?
Else,
Like
yeah.
that
I
kind
think
of
it
stuff.
yeah, that's a
Tennessee,
word.
where
Yeah.
is it double? Where is it single? Cinnamon, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I
I'm with you.
struggle with that kind of thing.
Anything with a recommendation is always the word that is the hardest for me. There's too many
Ooh.
opportunities for too many consonants, and I'm just like, "Nope, it's done." I don't know. And I use
It's
that
a
word a
single double
lot.
every
Yeah,
time.
it's impossible. Okay, I need to know how you and Van got paired up to do higher learning. I don't know the origin story somehow.
Oh, so I wish we could say that we were the geniuses behind it, but it really was Bill Simmons who created The Ringer. Bill is a fan of The Bachelor. So I used to come on Juliet Littman's
Yes, of
podcast and we discuss.
course.
I used to come on Bachelor Party and I would talk. And Bill loved that I had an opinion and kind of was like, didn't really care who I was upsetting when it came to The Bachelor. Like I was going to say what I felt. And we did this Hulu show one time where it was like me, Ben Higgins, Lauren Zima, and I think Nick was Nick there? I can't remember. And anyways, Bill was just kind of like we became cool and we would talk and we have these conversations about Bachelor. Then one day he said, like, I want to work with you. Well, the crazy thing is I'm a heavy note taker. And
Mm.
so I had outlined all the different areas I wanted to work in the media and who I wanted to work with back in 2018.
Oh, wow.
Bill Simmons was one of those people. So just to know him was cool, to talk with him was cool. But then for him to say, I want to work with you, I'm like, okay, I'm manifesting this, or I did manifest this. So he said, Rachel, don't you want to do something you're really proud of?
Mm.
And he's like, you're doing Bachelor stuff, you're giving opinions, but like, don't you want to do something you're passionate about? And I was like, yeah, I do. He's like, I have this idea. I really think you should meet this guy, Van Lathan. And I'm like, oh, I know who Van is. And I'm like the TMZ guy.
You're
And
right.
so when he goes to Van and says, "Hey, you need to meet this girl Rachel," he's like, "The Bachelorette?" So both of us were kind of like, we didn't really know
Right.
one another in depth like that. And Bill was like, "Hey, I'm gonna, like sit you guys down. We're gonna meet, whatever." We met. We all went to lunch, and we talked for hours and hours. And
Mm.
that could have been the podcast just in the
Right.
first conversation. And that's how we met. And then I just, like, have this insecurity that, like, people don't really like me that much when they meet me for some reason.
Okay,
Eh,
weird.
but this is an insecurity of mine
Sure.
specifically with Black people because of how I grew up.
Sure, sure, I get
So
that.
it's more so like, "Oh, like, Van's this cool Black guy, he probably thinks I'm this square." That is my because
Right,
that's
right,
what
right,
people used to
right.
say to me. Then couple
Yeah.
The Bachelor, Bachelorette, all that stuff. And he was like, "Why would you think that? We talked for hours. What are you saying? Like, I thought you were so cool." So from that moment on, we were like, we want to do this thing together. We both bring different perspectives when it comes to the Black experience. We grew up different. We kind of argue naturally,
Yep.
like brother and sister. So there's really this dynamic already in place that we don't have to work on. And then we were supposed to actually start in March 2020, but then
Right.
that's right when COVID hit. I was going to move to LA and everything. And I was still in Florida at the time. And then Van, as he's been open with on the podcast, really struggled at the beginning of COVID with his mental health. And so I thought he just didn't like me and didn't want to do the podcast. Again, totally
I get it,
insecure.
I get it.
And, and then he was like, no, I was really struggling. And we had one practice and it was so good. And Bill was on the call and he's like, normally people have to do this over and over again. You guys got it. And we just
I
from
love
then
it.
on, we just hit the ground running. And now we're a year and a half in it. And we've only done it virtually, except for one time it was in person, but the video messed up. So no one's ever seen it. So it's like it didn't happen.
Right.
So
Oh
I
my
I
gosh.
just can't even imagine how great the podcast is gonna be when we can be face to face and have guests in studio with us
Yeah.
and really play around a lot more.
Oh my god. Well, if you guys are ever looking for a book person to come talk about books, I'm in LA. I'm available
Oh, I
anytime.
know you're in LA. Oh, we have
Oh
to
yeah,
get
I'm here.
together.
Yeah, let's do it. I'd love that. Okay, I know we're running out of time, so let me do my last like little ones first.
Okay.
But I want to know if you know what comes next for you. I know technically the book's
No.
not out right now, so I'm like kind of stressing you out. But for people listening, the book will be out. You can get it now. But do you know what's next?
No. And I think and I could never say that before and be okay with that. And that's how you what you get in the book, which is why I have these life plans. I had planned out every single detail of my life. And then the moment I was doing exactly what I was supposed to do with the man that checked the boxes, the
Right.
job I was supposed to have, I did not feel fulfilled in life
Mm,
until I started doing things for me and what I wanted to do rather than what I should be doing. So I think there is so much beauty in saying, I don't know what's next. Never in my wildest dreams could I imagine that I would be podcasting and I would enjoy it so much. I'd be hosting a show or, as a correspondent on a show on TV. I'd be writing for Meta, just all these wonderful experiences, meeting so many great people, writing a book. Oh my
right.
goodness. Like I never saw this for myself. So I know I wanna continue in the space. I know I wanna continue to do things that I'm passionate about. I know I wanna do things beyond Bachelor. I know I wanna create. I know I love talking to people and learning about them and telling their stories. So I wanna do things where I can tell other stories. I wanna continue to push for change. I wanna continue to represent myself as a Black woman in all spaces and I want to have a family. That's one thing I can say, like, I really want to put my effort in it's easy for me and natural for me for career first, career, career,
Right,
career.
right,
So I
right.
really want to take the time and be more proactive with growing our family.
Oh, I want all of these things for you. These sound
Thank
like great
you.
things. So we're going to just manifest it. You manifested Bill Simmons. We're going to manifest the rest of the list. Um, what's the one thing that you hope folks will keep in mind as they read your book?
Ooh, I would just like them to strip their mind of everything they think they know about me.
Mm,
And think of this book as a blank slate of you're getting what you yes, you know pieces of me, but in a controlled way when the narrative is told for me in certain spaces. This is me. These are my words, my feelings, my emotions. Think of it as I'm going to get to meet Rachel for the very first time. Think of this as a rebirth
mm.
and go into it with that mindset because then I think you can see me a certain way. I hope people hate read this book because then I hope you walk away and you're like, wow, I hope you realize that, you know, when you think of The Bachelorette and we're supposed to be the most eligible person in the world, that with that, there are amazing things that happen, but there's also a lot of hardships. We're not perfect. There's a lot that happens prior to coming on the show, and there's a lot that happens after. Don't glorify us. Don't treat us like we're not real people. Like, because this book is real. This book is me as a human being, not as a bachelorette, not as
Mm.
a correspondent on Extra, not as a podcaster on Higher Learning. It's like me as the person.
For people who love this book, for people who think this book is awesome and great and want more of things like it, are there any books you might recommend to them that are sort of in conversation with what you've done?
Like other memoirs,
Sure, other memoirs that you think maybe speak to similar issues or anything, whatever
you know
pops to
what?
your mind.
I haven't read one since Becoming,
Mm,
Michelle Obama's book, because I didn't want my book to be like someone
right,
else's. My publisher gave me other essays, and I started to read, and I was like, "No," because, like,
right, it, like,
I don't
gets in
wanna
your
be that
head.
voice in my head. But what I will say I enjoyed about Becoming, and what I definitely was like, I wanna keep in my book, is Michelle Obama talks about how kids teased her growing up
Mm,
in the
yeah.
neighborhood in Chicago and something she struggled with, and I was like, "Oh, I have something in common with
Yes.
Michelle Obama." But not that Miss Me With That is on any level of Becoming, but I related to her in the sense that she also did everything she said she was gonna do, and then she took a turn and decided to go work for the city, and, like, detoured from the big job law firm that she had to do something she was passionate about. And
Right.
I loved that because I think so many people can relate to that and we're scared to do it, but then we do it and it just makes our life so much more rich. So yeah, it's hard to say what books. I mean, books I've read lately are Cast. I just bought the
Mm.
1619 Project. A funny book that I did read and I wrote a blurb for is Danny Pellegrino's book that's coming out.
Oh,
How
okay.
do I unremember this? And
Yeah.
it's like a book of essays as well,
Okay.
and it is so good. It
Okay.
is so interesting. I'm a big fan of him from his podcast,
Yeah.
and he tells a lot of stories, but nobody can tell a story like Danny.
Yeah. Oh my god, I love that. I have to get that book. Are you gonna blurb Van's book? I know you guys talked about it on the show.
I don't know, he didn't blur mine, so maybe he'll feel salty, but to be honest, nobody did.
Yeah, I didn't get a finished copy yet, so I haven't seen any blurbs. Oh, you didn't
I
ask
didn't
for
take
blurbs?
the time
No.
to ask people to read it before, and then I got super insecure. I deal with, see, I want people to realize this, I get so insecure about things, and I was like,
I
"Oh
love this
god."
about you. I mean, I don't love it for you, but it just makes you so relatable. I'm like, yes, insecure about every single possible thing. I totally can
Yeah,
relate. Yeah.
and I was like, "I don't want people to read my book and then hate it, or if they read my book and then they have nothing to say." So, between that and my schedule, I didn't get anybody to give me a blurb. So, if Van wants me to, absolutely, I'm gonna do it.
I'm very excited for his book as well.
Oh, it's
I
gonna be
I have no
it's gonna
idea
be
what it's
good.
gonna be, but
Nobody
it's gonna
tells
be
a
good.
story like Van.
That's
Nobody
true.
tells a
Oh my
story.
god. So this is a total tangent, but when Van's father passed away, my dad died about 10 years ago, but
Mhm.
I actually had to turn off the show when he was talking about his dad because it made me so emotional. The way that he like honored him, I'm gonna cry right now, but it was just so special. Anyways, people who don't
Yeah.
listen to Higher Learning, if you like this show, you'll love Higher Learning. It's totally different, but it's great. Okay, this
And
is my last question. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh, no, I was just gonna say it's just about higher learning. I think that that is the beauty of it is one thing Van and I have promised ourselves is we don't shy away from anything, whether it's some type of controversy, whether it's an emotion of what we're feeling. We bring that to the podcast because we
Mhm.
wanna treat the thought warrior community, that's what we call our listeners,
Yes.
as family. So, I hate that you had to turn it off, but I love that it was something that you could connect with at the same time because that's what we wanna bring to our audience.
Yeah, so good. I do think I went back and finished, but I was like, "I can't do this right now." I, like, came on and I was like,
I
it was so
cried during it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was just a lot. Last question. If you could have one person, dead or alive, read your book, who would you want it to be?
Whoo! One person? The first thing, just because we've been talking so much about Dr. King, I would say Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., but then I would be totally,
Insecure.
embarrassed, for him to read. So I'm not gonna say him because I could never take the nerve if he was alive to say, like, "Hey, you should read my book." I would want Michelle Obama to read my book.
Mm.
Dead, I would want Lucille Ball to read my book.
Oh, love that. Did you see Being the Ricardos yet?
Yes, I
I haven't
did.
seen it yet. Did you like it?
I've had no expectations, and it
Okay.
was so much better than I thought it was gonna be. I don't
Okay.
like it's very Aaron Sorkin, so,
Yeah.
I don't like the setup and the way it
Mhm.
moves, but I like it. I learned stuff in it, and I as a diehard I Love Lucy fan, there were things I didn't even know.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Okay, well, everybody, we're gonna get out of here now. Rachel, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun. Yeah, we gotta get together.
1,000%. Everybody else, we will see you in the stacks. All right, that does it for us today. Thank you all so much for listening, and thank you to Rachel Lindsay for being my guest. I'd also like to thank Morgan Haidt and Emily Isaiah for helping to make this interview possible. Remember, the Stacks Book Club pick for February is I Live a Life Like Yours by Jan Gru. We will be discussing the book on Wednesday, February 23rd with Tessa Miller. Everything you've heard on today's episode can be found in a link in the show notes. If you love the show and want inside access to it, head to patreon.com/thestacks and join the Stacks Pack. Make sure you're subscribed to the Stacks wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you're listening through Apple Podcasts, be sure to leave us a rating and a review. For more from the Stacks, follow us on social media at The Stacks Pod on Instagram, at The Stacks Pod _ on Twitter, and check out our website, thestackspodcast.com. Our editor is Christian Duenas, our graphic designer is Robin McCrite, and our theme music is from Tegirigis. The Stacks is created and produced by me, Tracy Thomas.